you hit the recording button. We are recording. Listen,
we are a year in.
A year in.
How do you record? We're hit the record button.
Okay.
Welcome to Haunted Hospitality, Southern Stories told by Spooky Gingers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Zoe, and we've been doing this for a year now. How's life, Robin?
Life is good. So for our How's Life section, we're going to talk about our favorite thing about podcasting.
Because we've been doing it for a year.
And I'm doing a cop-out.
Okay, what's your cop-out?
Because my favorite thing is doing it with you. And being all buddy-buddy and coming over and talking about spooky things with you for a whole year. That's my absolute favorite.
Yay.
But my second favorite, I'm doing two, is just because I didn't previously consider myself much of a Ravenclaw, though I knew that had to be like my backup house. Mm-hmm. But this has unlocked the Ravenclaw in me because it's brought to my attention just how much when I know something, I need to know everything about it. And so I'm over here like just needing to know everything about everything. And this podcast allows me to navigate those fun Ravenclaw waters and explore that part of myself.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Zoe, what's your favorite thing about podcasting with me?
With you. Well, I mean, it is true that like before we started doing the podcast, I think like we maybe texted every 3 months. Like, we went out to coffee every now and then, but, like, we weren't really super, like, seeing each other every single week.
We were still friends.
We were still friends,
Yes.
Obviously, yeah, because we've been best friends since the 8th grade.
Yes.
But it wasn't until we started the podcast that, like, I could randomly text you about
yes.
boo hags.
Yeah,
like,
you can now randomly text me about... We are at that level where you can randomly text me about boo hags.
Just be like, hey, did you see a pile of bloody bones around here? Anyway, so that would be number one.
Uh-huh.
And number two goes back to also a vain part of my personality about knowing things. But I'm more like a Jeopardy contest winner where it's like... I will be in a conversation with someone, and I love dropping random, obscure facts.
Oh, like name dropping, but knowledge dropping.
Yes,
nice.
Exactly. And now I can be like, oh, by the way, in 1912, da-da-da-da-da. And it's just like, oh, how did you know that obscure fact, Zoe? And I'd be like, I have a podcast.
Do you use that exact voice?
Yes, I always talk about my podcast.
Okay, nice. I'm just waiting, impatiently now, for somebody to invite me to a camping trip so I can be at a campfire and just
tell a scary story.
I would just vomit up scary stories. I know so many now.
Yeah.
Hence the podcast.
It's honestly, like, it's great because I know, like, at any time, I can just go into my Google Docs, and I can tell you about the lizard man.
You are wearing an iguana? Bearded... Okay.
Iguana
shirt right now.
Like, I was at the hairdresser Friday, right? And they started talking about the Biltmore estate. And I was just like, it's my time to shine.
It's my time to shine.
And I was able to tell them about how many acres there were on the land and the square footage. And that it was built as a summer getaway. And I was able to tell them about the ghost cat. And also I was able to tell them about the $300,000 wedding or whatever, how much ever it was.
Oh, yeah. Which we learned from on-the-ground knowledge.
Because we went there.
We went there.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
But, yeah, so...
So, we've enjoyed making this. We hope you guys have enjoyed listening to it. And thank you for being a part of this journey with us.
And thank you for inflating our egos.
Whoop, whoop.
So, Robin, do you have a something?
I have a something spooky for you.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, okay, Robin, this is the anniversary episode.
Yes.
What is something that scares you deeply?
Oh, no.
What?
Is it the Hat Man?
No.
Oh, okay.
We've already talked about the Hat Man. I mean, I will talk about more if more comes up, but I figured I would talk to you, and I'm only going to say this name twice. Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary,
Shut
Bloody Mary.
Are you serious right now? Oh my gosh, people usually tease me and just go to the 2 and they start to say like the 3rd time and then they stop. You just went out of the gate. I really don't like this. I'm not using your bathroom. Okay. Well, you know about Bloody Mary then. Okay, that's my second time and that's the only time. She's bloody from now on. Okay. So have you ever done the Bloody
Mary?
Shut up. have you ever done this?
Hold on, pause before we move on. I promise this is not like the Halloween episode. I'm not about to get possessed by Bloody Mary.
Oh, yeah. That would have been good. Why didn't we do that instead of just... we made up our own thing for the Halloween... Anyway, just go back and listen to that one.
So, but...
Have you ever done the ritual?
Yes, I have done it.
Really?
Yes.
Did anything happen?
No.
Okay, because the thing is, scientifically, things might have.
Really? I think I was too busy on, like, focusing on impressing my peers, because it was a sleepover, and I wanted to be like, I'm cool and collected. I'm not scared at all.
Oh, so your focus was misplaced because actually, I'm not going to get into that yet, but scientifically, the focus thing is what causes the vision hallucinations.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Because you keep staring at your own face and you're finding shapes in the dark?
Okay, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, Bloody Mary. This is gonna get difficult. Why did I come out of the gate just saying it twice? You know what? I'm screw it. Screw it. And I've never done this before in my life. I've never said it 3 times in a row in my life. Bloody Mary. I know. And you have glasses. I hope I don't see anything in the reflection. Bloody Mary is considered a form of divination. Or at least it was in the beginning of it. Because it was actually, like, derived from a ritual to see your future husband. Oh. So here's what would happen. You are a young lady. Uh-huh. You're in a dark house. Uh-huh. You have a mirror in one hand. Uh-huh. A candle in the other, and you are on some stairs. Oh. And you walk backwards.
Up the stairs?
Up the stairs backwards. And you are looking in the mirror. And the idea is, this is a ritual where your future husband's face will appear behind you in the mirror. Either that, or it will signify that you're actually going to die before marriage, and it will be a skull.
Ooh.
So this is a neat trick to see your future. And eventually, and I don't know, like, the whole tale of how this came to become the Bloody Mary ritual. Can you sense the hesitation there? But obviously it does, because now what happens is you are at a sleepover, inevitably, and somebody's like, let's do Bloody Mary. And you're all preteen girls, by the way. You are always preteen girls. And so you go into, do people have candles? My guess is probably now it's like a phone flashlight.
When I did it, it was a candle, but like I was also of an age where a preteen did not have a cell phone.
You know what? You carry a scented candle from Bath and Body Works into a bathroom now. You know, you have it lit. Your friends are waiting outside the door. They're like, do it. And you say,
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
And the idea is you look in the mirror and she will appear behind you. And things, there's different versions of this. She might scratch your face. Okay. She might kill you. Oh. There might be blood on the mirror. Uh-huh. And that's essentially it, because if she kills you, you're dead, and then it's the end of the story. But, so, that's the ritual behind Bloody Mary, of course, which I have not actually done myself. And there are a few theories as to who is the said Mary, who is bloody. Yes. The first one, and I actually disagree with all of these. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why after I list them out. The first one is Mary I of England, who was actually called Bloody Mary. She was a Catholic queen of England during a time when a lot of it had switched over to, I don't know if it's exactly Protestantism or just to the new church, which gradually took on Protestant ideals. But she prosecuted a lot of Protestants during her reign, and so she was called Bloody Mary. So that's option number 1. Okay. Then there is Elizabeth Bathory. I don't know how they get the Mary out of this, but I do know how they get the bloody, because she was just the worst.
She was the one who bathed in woman's blood, right?
At least according to, like, the tales of her. But, like, she she killed hundreds of people. She was just truly awful, awful, awful person. A Hungarian noblewoman who abused her power to kill the people that she was, I mean, if you're, like, in that seat of power, I guess, ruling over.
Right.
Not sure if that's quite the right word. And then the other one, and I didn't know this one until recently, but Mary Worth, who was either, like, a witch who was burned at the stake, or she was a person who killed enslaved people in America while they were trying to escape to freedom.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how we get two options out of this one person.
Those are very different.
Those are very different time periods. Not quite sure how that came to be. But I don't actually think Bloody Mary is any of these people, because I feel like it's not so much of a the Queen of England will come and get you,
right.
and much more of a, like, just a creepy thing that springs up, like, because Mary is a common woman's name, and what's scary? Blood. I just kind of think, like, it's like a naturally occurring thing, rather than, like,
a singular ghost.
Yeah, though if it is one of them, I do think it's probably most likely to be Mary I of England, because she is supposedly Bloody Mary. There are a few scientific explanations behind this. One of this is the Troxler effect, which is where you are focusing your vision on something for a long... That wasn't me telling you to focus. That was me telling you, like, going back to how I said your focus was shifted.
Right.
Yeah. When you focus on something for a long period of time, it's going to start to, like, distort what you are focusing on, because your brain processes it differently after you look at it for too long. And then the other thing is, in an experiment by a psychologist named Giovanni Caputo, he put people into 50 people into a darkened room with a mirror and told them to, like, stare at themselves for 10 minutes. And almost half of those people came away with, like, these somewhat vivid, like, fantastical, and by that I mean not of this world, hallucinations. Almost half of those people. And some people saw their parents, and some of those parents were living and some of them were dead, and some of them saw an old woman in the mirror. They saw lots of things in the mirror. So I think, like, there's just something naturally... I'm not saying that was a particularly haunted mirror. What I'm saying is that there is something about us that just seeks to... If you are looking into the darkness, your brain is going to be searching for what could be in the darkness. And it might not be a thing that makes any realistic sense to be there.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, it is very possible for people to do the Bloody Mary ritual and to come away thinking they saw something.
Right.
To close out this little something spooky, I wanted to share to you a post I saw by Tumblr user mkaiser323.
Okay.
Which says, "It's fun to chant Bloody Mary into your car's mirror 3 times and watch her jog and try to keep up."
That's funny.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Just that image of her. But yeah, I think the reason that it freaked me out so much growing up is because, well, 1, I was always scared of mirrors. Terrified. And 2, because once I learned that Bloody Mary was a thing, I think my brain inputted, like... into my image of what Bloody Mary would look like in the mirror to be that, like, ghost I thought I saw when I was 3. And so, like, I'm like, she's behind me. Anyway, very freaked out. Continue to be freaked out. I'm not doing that ritual. I would love to see, not see you do the ritual, because then I would have to be in the dark room too. I would love to be over here while you go to the bathroom and do that ritual, if you're ever interested.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. I do want to add one thing. There's an episode of Ghost Whisperer.
Yes, I love that episode.
Where it's, oh my god, I loved that Bloody Mary episode.
So good.
And so I highly recommend, if you guys have ever seen Ghost Whisperer, or maybe not, just go check that episode out, because it's very good.
There's also apparently a Bloody Mary episode of Supernatural. I completely remember everything about the Ghost Whisperer one, because I've seen it millions of times.
Right.
I don't know the Supernatural one, even though I've seen Supernatural, and I'm sure I've seen this episode multiple times, but I had to look it up, and I'm like, none of this is ringing a bell. Absolutely none of it.
I just know, like, it ends with them being in a warehouse full of mirrors, and they have to, like, break the mirrors one by one until there's only one mirror left. And then they break that one and kill the ghost. But, like, the only reason I remember...
Why is she only in those mirrors?
because they were hunting Sam or Dean, and then they end up the last mirror was the mirror she originally showed up in or something like that.
Okay.
And like that was in like season 1 or 2.
It was season 1, episode 5.
And so people are jokingly said on the internet that the reason that they have such crappy lives in the rest of the episodes is because they broke 1 million mirrors each.
Okay.
And breaking a mirror brings you 7 years of bad luck.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
They do have a lot of bad luck in that show.
Yes, and it's all because they broke all those mirrors.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
All right, do you have a story for us today?
I do have a story for us today, Robin. And I believe today's story is fitting for our 1-year anniversary episode because it is, if not the most, one of the most popular witches in the South.
Yay!
All right. So let me tell you the story of the Bell Witch. Do do do. So
we have our theme music. You don't have to make your own theme music.
I want to do my own theme music.
Okay.
What are those people called? Thaumaturg? No, that's not it. Foley artists. Foley artists.
Yeah.
Foley artists, they live the dream.
They're not doing music.
No, they do the
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's me.
Okay.
Yeah. Do do do. Anyway. So the story of the Bell Witch is actually a haunting that took place in Robertson County, Tennessee, between the years of 1817 and 1821. The thing doing the haunting is what's known as the Bell Witch, because they believed that it was a witch who was haunting them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you the details.
You seem to have, like, some thoughts on this.
Yes, I do have some thoughts on this.
Okay.
Mostly because it centers around a teenage girl, a prepubescent teenage girl. And I'm half convinced it's actually a poltergeist.
Okay.
So the story is actually named after the family that is being terrorized by the witch. So the Bell family is what's being terrorized. The witch's name isn't Bell. Mm-hmm. So there was a newspaper editor who published a novel in 1894 detailing the events, and most people go off of this book when they're telling tales of the witch.
Okay.
The book is called An Authenticated History of the Bell Witch by Martin V. Ingram. However, historians say that this book is historical fiction and write it off mostly as folklore. So all of this information comes from that book, and historians say that the book is false. So theoretically, none of this could have ever happened.
Yeah, but this is also the story that lives on about it.
Yes.
Okay.
So John Bell and his wife and children settled on the farm in 1804. They moved there from North Carolina, and the land was 320 acres, or as some other people called it, over 1,000 acres. But I think the 320 acres is more realistic. Mm-hmm. John was the deacon at the Red River Baptist Church in town. They were an affluent family in this area. Mm-hmm. Then in the summer of 1817, the hauntings began.
Ooh.
John Bell was the first to see the sign of the witch. He saw a, quote, strange creature resembling a dog, but with the head of a rabbit. So, of course, his first action was to shoot at it.
What is up with these people and shooting at everything?
I don't know.
Okay.
So the creature disappeared when he shot at it.
Like, wait, did it run off or did it disappear?
No, like, poof,
okay,
disappeared. Poof. Then Drew Bell, the son, saw a very large bird whose species was unrecognizable to him. But when he approached it, it flew away, and that's clearly a sign of a witch.
Yeah.
You see a bird you've never seen before, that's a witch.
Absolutely.
Betsy, the youngest daughter, and the prepubescent child that I spoke of.
Can we stop referring to her as prepubescent? Just a child. Okay.
She saw a girl in a green dress swinging from the limb of an oak tree. But, of course, small town, everybody knows each other. She didn't recognize this girl.
Oh, so the girl was holding on to it.
The girl was swinging from the limb of an oak tree, yes.
Oh, she was on a swing.
No, she was, like, swinging, like monkey bar swinging.
Okay, I just wanted to, like, specify that she wasn't hanging.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Cool,
no.
cool.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I didn't even, like, think of that. So, yeah, no.
Okay, so a little girl in a green dress who she didn't recognize.
It was a girl. I don't know if it was a little girl.
So a girl in a green dress who she didn't recognize.
Right, and she disappeared.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm with you, I swear.
And then Dean, a man that the Bells had enslaved on their farm, saw a large black dog when he would go visit his wife. And you remember in the Devil's Tramping Ground, that also had a large black dog.
It did. And isn't there, like, lore about the dog guarding hell? Guarding something?
Kind of. So there is lore of whenever you have a new cemetery, whoever's the first person to be buried in the cemetery is supposed to aid people in crossing over. And because of this, nobody wanted to be stuck on Earth. So in these times, they would always bury a black dog first. And so the dog would be seen around cemetery kind of as the protector and also as the person or the thing that would guide them to the next life.
Okay, so lots of omens right now.
Unrecognizable birds, dogs with rabbit heads.
Right now, I think it's the girl that's freaking me out the most.
Yeah. We're going to get into more freaky stuff.
Okay.
So this is just the beginning as the witch starts to gain power. So they heard knocking on the doors and the walls. They heard the sound of a rat gnawing at their beds, but there were no rats. They heard the sound of stones being dropped onto the wooden floors. They heard gulping and choking sounds. They heard invisible dogs fighting. And they heard the sound of chains being dragged across the floor. Most of the time, this was at night.
Okay.
So the family was terrified. But they kept the problem to themselves for over a year. Until John was like, hey, buddy, neighbor of mine, James Johnson, how you doing?
Name drop.
Can you, like, make sure my family's not going crazy? And so the Johnsons, the next door neighbors, stayed over. Him and his wife stayed over for several nights, and they witnessed the same things. And they're like, maybe we should, like, tell more people about this. And he's like, okay, fine. So soon people all over town were coming to witness the Bell Witch. The author of the book I mentioned, Martin Ingram, he refers to the witch as a poltergeist named Kate. And he said that the entity responded to the name favorably. So when the creature responded to the name of Kate, which I can only imagine that they were like, how about Susan?
Yeah.
No. What about Roberta?
It's like when you have a stray dog and you're trying to figure out what its name was and you just shout out Fido, Spot.
Just shout out random names until it looks at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they found out its name is Kate. And people believe that this is because the neighbor, another neighbor, not the Johnsons, Kate Batts must have been the witch.
Oh, her name was Kate Batts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she was another neighbor, and they're like, well, the witch refers to themselves as Kate. So the neighbor Kate Batts must be the witch. And so the Batts family was poor, and Kate was forced to do the majority of the work for her family because her husband was paralyzed in an accident. And I get into a little bit more later, but witches were often ostracized women of society. And so a poor woman who does the labor of a man would be picked upon.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe it's her. She actually said that she had nothing to do with it, but people of the town thought that she felt cheated by John Bell in a land purchase. Like, apparently he cheated her out, like said he was going to sell her some land, but the land he sold her was not good farmland. And she reportedly had a habit of trying to impress people and would make a scene to be the center of attention. And apparently that means she's a witch. So she denied any connection to the haunting. Another source did say that she was on her deathbed and cursed John Bell and said that she would haunt him and his descendants. But she was, like, alive for the whole time that this Bell Witch thing was happening. So I'm like, hey, I don't know where you missed the timeline there, but...
Well, that kind of makes sense. So the Witch of Yazoo, she gave that same thing. I'm going to curse you and I'm going to curse... Actually, I don't know if she said your descendants, but she said, like, this town.
Right.
They always write witches as, like, going out with a bang.
Yeah. Yeah, but she was still alive, so I don't think it was Kate Batts.
Okay, so... If we had a chalkboard with possible suspects, we're crossing off Kate Batts right now.
Yes, we're crossing off Kate Batts. So the term Bell Witch was actually coined by President Andrew Jackson.
What?
Yep. So he came to visit the house because he knew the Bell family because some of the children fought with him when he was a general. And also Andrew Jackson owned land nearby. So when he heard of the Bell Witch, he's like, oh, let me come see.
Okay.
Because you had nothing better to do in the 1800s.
Nope.
So when he visited, the horses refused to cross into the property line, and the wagon's wheels locked up to the point where, like, soldiers were literally pushing. Oh, yeah, because Andrew Jackson didn't come alone. He came with, like, an entire army.
Wait,
yeah.
What?
Because he was still a general at the time, and so, like, he brought all of his men with him.
Okay.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that part.
I'm not sure. Okay.
So the wagon's wheels locked up, and, like, the soldiers were, like, trying to push it, and it wouldn't move. And they're like, oh, how did this happen? And then they heard a voice that said, all right, General, let the wagon move on. I'll see you again tonight. And then suddenly the horses were fine crossing onto the property, and the wagon was able to move.
I think after I heard that, I would turn around.
Well, they continued, and they stayed the night, and she ended up pulling the covers off of Jackson and his men while they slept. She tore down the tents while the men were still in the tents, because obviously they couldn't all fit in the house. And she slapped Betsy. And then she attacked one man who had a pistol and a silver bullet that he named the Witch Tamer. So she just attacked him because I guess she was personally offended by him.
Well, he had the Witch Tamer.
Yes. So the next morning, Andrew Jackson left, and he was quoted saying, by the Eternal, I saw nothing, but I heard enough to convince me that I'd rather fight the British than to deal with this torment that they call the Bell Witch. And he refused to stay another night.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty weird in that time, because if you came to visit, you didn't just stay one night. Like, you stayed multiple nights.
That's true.
So the witch grew strong enough to have a voice, and they asked her what her plan was, and she said she was here for two things and two things only.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to kill John Bill.
Okay.
And she's going to stop Betsy from marrying a neighbor boy named Joshua Gardner.
That's a very specific second task.
See, a lot of people at this point believe that it was Betsy.
When you say at this point, are we talking about in history or now?
Now,
okay.
Reflecting back, mm-hmm. They believe that it's Betsy. Perhaps she was abused by her father, and she was being forced to marry Joshua Gardner and didn't want to because he was a little bit older than her. Like, I think she was, like, 12, 13, and he was probably, like, in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she didn't want to marry him, and her father was probably forcing her to marry him. And so if she had some sort of, like, poltergeist being coming out of her and attacking her randomly and also attacking everybody else, they wouldn't make her marry him, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's her hidden rage personifying itself as a poltergeist / witch. So at least that's what I think.
Thank you for
You're
explaining
welcome. That. From there, the abuse got worse, and most of it was centered around Betsy and John.
Mm-hmm.
John Bell became unable to move his mouth at odd times, getting more frequent and for longer periods as time went on. So my first thought is I'm going to Google, hey, what ailment did we not know about in the 1800s that could cause this? There's this illness called Bell's palsy, and the last name of this family is called Bell,
Is it named after them?
But it's not named after them.
Okay.
It's named after Sir Charles Bell, who had the same symptoms in 1774 to 1842. There's a facial nerve that you have that can become pinched or compressed, and it's because of an immune system defect that you would have, and it would cause your face to twitch at random times.
Okay, and then you wouldn't be able to use your mouth.
Right. And he also had a swollen throat every now and then, and the sensation of a stick being sideways in his throat. Yeah. So they were like, oh, the witch shoved a stick down his mouth, but it might have been like this weird symptom of Bell's palsy.
I'm on team that sounds like a medical thing.
Yeah. So his face would also twitch and jerk uncontrollably, and he steadily grew weaker and weaker. Then, generally, the sheets were pulled from the bed where all the children slept, pillows were thrown, hair was pulled, the kids were scratched. Betsy specifically was slapped, beaten, pinched, and stuck with invisible pins. When Betsy was slapped, people could hear the noise of the slap, see her jerk, and then her face would turn red, as if somebody had literally just slapped her.
Wow.
And multiple people witnessed this. According to this one book.
According to this one book. Everything is like with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are other news articles that I got some of this information from where they interviewed locals who family had been in the town forever, and they all say the same thing too. But it's like, where did they get their story from? Did they also get their story from the book?
Yeah.
So it's kind of impossible to trace back the source of my granddad, I said.
Yeah. Thanks for whipping out that southern accent for us.
You're welcome. You remember that time we had the southern accent off?
That I won? Yes, I do.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry. We're allowed to reminisce. It's the 1 year episode.
The 1 year episode. Give us this.
So the friend James Johnson stayed the night to help several more times, and he witnessed the events regularly. He said it was a spirit, just like in the Bible. The area became famous, and more and more people came to see the witch. She was very intelligent and knowledgeable about the Bible and people's pasts and future.
She was knowledgeable about the Bible?
Yes.
They don't usually do that.
Yeah, no, she's very knowledgeable about the Bible, and she would be able to, like, could tell her, like, recite this novel or this passage in the Bible, and she'd be able to do it flawlessly every time.
Quick question. Right now, I've just been picturing this disembodied voice.
Yes, it's a disembodied voice.
Oh, right. So it's like she's on a PA system.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
No, other than the animals and that one girl in green, nobody sees anything.
Interesting.
Honestly, it kind of feels like Invisible Man. Like,
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but, like, just the general concept, like, there's somebody who's invisible who's there, you know?
Yeah.
She was asked, "Who are you and what do you want?" And those present heard, "I am a spirit. I was once very happy, but I have been disturbed." So people are like, "Ooh, maybe this all started because of a recent disturbance of a Native American burial mound on the Bell property. And maybe it's not Kate Batts."
Redemption for Kate.
Yes, but they still continue to call the spirit a Kate. But the spirit, so there's a Native American burial mound on the property, and apparently some neighbor boys recently disturbed it, and maybe this was what started the ghost hunting or whatever it's called.
Okay.
Yeah. So the spirit was able to be in two places at once, and it would prove it by speaking sermons that were given in the church 13 miles away at the same time as the sermon was being given. So what they would do is they would have somebody go to the church and have somebody stay at the Bell property, and they would listen to the sermon at the church and write it down, and they would listen to what the spirit was saying at the Bell property and write it down. And then they would meet and compare notes, and she was saying the same exact thing.
This is a weird haunting.
It's very weird.
I didn't know it was this weird.
It's very weird.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was, like, literally in the moment, like, you were 13 miles away, and I was copying exactly what you were saying here.
Huh.
Yeah. And then James's son, John, James Johnson, neighbor, John.
His name was John Johnson?
Yes, his name was John Johnson.
And this is different from John Gardner?
Who's John Gardner?
The boy that Betsy didn't want to marry?
Oh, sorry, hold on. I don't think that was John Gardner. Joshua Gardner.
Okay, listen. The Jays need to stop.
John Bell is the father.
The Jays need to stop.
So John Johnson, son of James Johnson, friend of John Bell.
He named his son John Johnson?
Yes, he named his son John Johnson.
Okay.
So John Johnson asked the witch a question that the Bell family couldn't have had an answer to, thinking that maybe it was like them setting it up. So he asked, what would my Dutch step-grandmother in North Carolina say to the slaves if she thought they did something wrong?
Okay.
The witch replied in his grandmother's accent, "Hut tut, what has happened now?" Which was correct. Mm-hmm. But he said it sounded as if his grandmother was in the room saying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we have an omniscient thing. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep. In another account, this is a quote, sorry. In another account, an Englishman stopped to visit and offered to investigate. On remarking on his family overseas, the witch suddenly began to mimic his English parents. Again at early morning, the witch woke him to voices of his parents, worried as they had heard his voice as well. So she was relaying a conversation that they were having in England, being like, "Oh, I heard our son speak last night. Yes, I heard him too. That was weird. What if he died? What if that was his spirit?" And he heard that in the morning.
What?
So the Englishman quickly left that morning and wrote a letter to the Bell family after he returned home, saying that he was able to confirm that his parents did have that conversation and that they did hear his voice and that the entity had visited his family in England. He apologized for his skepticism.
This is weird.
It's so weird. Yeah.
Okay.
However, this witch has been showing off parlor tricks, abusing people left and right, creeping people out. But there was one person that the witch adored.
Is it the boy?
It's the mother.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. Huh. So the mother, Lucy Bell.
Okay.
The witch called her the most perfect woman to walk this earth. And the mother regularly woke up to bowls of fresh fruit next to her, and she would constantly sing hymns to her.
Okay.
So, just pleasantly singing to her while she's working or doing her daily things.
And she's going around and slapping everybody else and freaking everybody else out.
But, bowing down and kissing the earth the mother walks on.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's weird. So she continued to threaten John Bell. She once said, "Mr. Bell is a bad man." That was one of the first sentences that she said. She allegedly poisoned him. Mm-hmm. So what happened was they found a strange vial of medicine no one had ever seen before on his bedside table, half empty.
Okay.
The smell of the medicine was on John's breath, but he had no memory of taking it, and nobody in the entire household had any memory of giving it to him.
Okay, I have a theory, but I'm going to wait till the end.
Okay. So they took the medicine and, trigger warning, animal death. They took the medicine and fed it to a cat, and the cat convulsed and died, moments later.
Why did you have to do that?
I don't know, but
can you just assume it's poison or that something bad is happening?
Yeah, what did that teach you other than...
our suspicions are confirmed.
Yeah.
Poor kitty.
John died. He grew ill with difficulties eating, and he had seizures, and then he died in 1820. And it's
because of the poison?
Yeah, because of the poison.
Okay.
And so it's he was gonna die anyway. You didn't have to kill the dang cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I was just mad about that.
I'm mad about that too.
Which is like, okay, I'm not mad about the man dying, but I'm mad about the cat. He didn't have to die. The sickness killed him in 1820, and when the mourners gathered and his funeral was happening, the witch started singing drinking songs.
What?
All throughout the viewing, all throughout the funeral, like, just constantly singing happy drinking songs.
Is this witch the comic relief? Is she the comic relief? I'm trying to figure out, like, the role she's supposed to be playing, and it's really just everywhere.
It's everywhere, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like, if you're so evil that you're terrorizing this family, why are you also doing parlor tricks and, like, entertaining people, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, you got your goal of killing him. Why are you singing drinking songs? Like, can't you be like, he mysterious, I'm mysterious, I killed him? But no, instead you're gonna be like, I killed him, I did it, hoo 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 hoo.
This is weird. It's
very weird. So after he died, the family was like, fine, Betsy doesn't have to marry Joshua.
Okay.
And so the witch, happy that she is not going to marry Joshua, she called off the engagement. And she actually got engaged to somebody else who was a little bit more suitable for her, apparently.
Okay.
And then the witch said, okay, toodles, I'm going to head out now, but I'll be back in 7 years.
Back in 7 years, okay.
So that would have been 1828.
7 years later.
Yes. She returned as promised, but the only family on the farm, which was John Bell Jr., his wife and children, and Lucy, one of the Bell children, and her youngest sons, chose not to encourage it. And so she left again.
Okay.
So they heard the same things, the stones, the weird animals, all that.
Wait, so who chose not to encourage it again?
The family that was left behind. So that would be John Bell Jr. and his family, and Lucy and her family.
Okay. Thank you.
But in the couple weeks that it took for the ghost to get the hint, or the witch to get the hint, she spoke with John Bell Jr. about his past, present, and future. And she also implied that there was a reason for John Bell Sr.'s death, but she did not say what it was.
Ooh.
And then they were just, like, ignoring her, and she's like, fine, you guys are losers. I'm going to come back in 107 years.
Okay, so do math for me again?
That would be 1935.
Okay.
I did not do the math. I just listened to the website. But
I trust.
She promised to come back in 1935, but there are not any reports from that time.
Okay.
So some people believe that she never actually left the town.
Okay.
Because of some random small things that would occur every now and again throughout the town. And I'm going to give you a handful of them.
All right.
So, the people who lived near the cave before modern plumbing...
The cave.
Yes, there is a cave. Oh, did I mention the cave? There's a cave.
You have not mentioned the cave, but I did know about the cave.
Okay, there's the Bell Witch Cave, and I'm going to get a little bit more into it. But basically, a lot of people think that that's where the Bell Witch stayed, but there's actually no evidence because it was never even mentioned until the 1900s. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if all this happened in early 1800s and nobody mentioned it until the 1900s... it's probably just something that was thrown in there to make it sound more spoopy. So, people who lived near the cave would shower in the waterfall at the mouth of the cave once a week. Mm-hmm. And there was a father and son who was assigned to go on Saturday, I guess. And they would shower, but the father forgot his soap. So he told the boy his son to go back to the house and get him some soap. And as he said this, before the boy had a chance to run and go get it, a bar of soap came down the hill and stopped at the feet of the man who had asked for it.
Okay, thank you, Kate. That was very helpful.
Then one summer, a teenager decided to bring girls to the cave on the first date because, like, it's the horror movie thing where it's like, oh, if I bring her somewhere scary, she's going to snuggle up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to take girls on first dates here. And on his 8th first date, he forgot something in his car. So this was when cars existed. And so he, like, got out of his car and they were heading towards the cave and he realized he forgot something. So he turned around and went back to his car. Mm-hmm. And so, like, he wasn't away. Like, the car was not out of his sight for more than, like, a minute. And when he got back to his car, he saw the words, "Do not come back anymore," written on his windshield. And he's like, "There's nobody near my car. There's nowhere near enough time to write that on my car."
Huh.
He was never seen at that place again.
So he heeded it.
He what?
Heeded it. Like, I'm gonna heed your warning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying he did it. Like, he was the one who wrote the words. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
He heeded.
He heeded it.
He heeded it.
But yeah, so he didn't come back to the Bell Cave. Cave visitors will regularly have difficulty starting their cars, and photos taken would not develop because this was before digital photos, but they would all come back black. And the person who's writing this article said that they personally had no issues with their car starting up afterwards, but all their like about half of their photos came back black.
Okay.
And it was like, I mean, I know it's a cave, but like some of the photos were outside and it shouldn't have any light issues. Mm-hmm. And obviously they had flash. Some football players from Vanderbilt, the college, were in the cave holding a seance. Which
I just love this image. Okay.
Yeah. When I think of Vanderbilt football players, players.
The famous Vanderbilt football flavors.
Yes. When I think of Vanderbilt football players, I don't picture them in a witch's cave holding a seance. But
well, now I do. And now you do too, dear listener.
So they were holding a seance, and then 3 of them fell to the ground and could not get up. Like, they were still conscious. They were like just like magnetized to the ground, and like other guys were coming over and trying to like pick them up, and they could not move them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like think of in Thor when like Mjolnir is put on Loki's chest and he like just can't move.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like that. But then just as suddenly as they were pulled to the ground, they were released and they were allowed to get it back up.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So just like it did in the 1800s, the Bell Farm attracts a lot of tourists. The original house had to be torn down for safety purposes in the late 1800s, but there are some preserved artifacts that you can view if you go, including an original chimney stone and an iron kettle.
Ooh, I gotta stop by. They got a rock.
A rock. But they have rebuilt the cabin to the likeness of the original house, just with more modern safety features like, you know, fire detectors and stuff like that. Smoke detectors, that's the word.
I mean, hopefully, I guess it does the work of a fire detector.
However, if you look at the photos online that they provide, they have one about what looks like to be maybe a grave. I don't know. But it's very shallow, and they claim that a Native American was buried there, but thieves broke in and stole the bones. Mm-hmm. And they think that this was like the Native American ancient burial ground disturbance that caused the evil magic to happen. I'm obviously being sarcastic here, but
so many. Anytime like a story goes back to that, mm-hmm. It's always white people who come up with that.
I know.
I just would like to point that out there. It is always white people who come up with that.
Yes.
Okay.
So here's a picture of the grave.
All right. That's a grave. Confirm.
Okay. To me, it looks like a rock pit. But...
Okay. It is a rectangular rock dip in the ground that could hold a body very easily.
Yes. So there's also a photo of a rock formation that, quote, looks like the face of the Bell Witch, end quote. But, like, nobody ever saw them.
She didn't have a face, guys.
Yeah, she was invisible. And to me, it just looks like a profile with a stereotypical long witch nose.
Okay.
So, do you see it?
I see that. That's just rocks, guys.
Yeah.
It's just rocks.
It's just a pattern in the rocks.
It's just a pattern in the rocks. Okay. People love patterns.
They do, and like I forget the name of the word, but it's something that humans have that makes us see human faces in all things.
Yeah, that came up in my Bloody Mary research today.
Do you remember the word?
No, I don't.
Well, cats have the same thing, but instead of seeing faces and everything, yeah.
How do we know?
I don't know, but I do remember seeing something that cats have the same thing, but instead of seeing faces everywhere, they see snakes everywhere.
That explains
so that's why they chase
much.
like strings and cables, and
That's why they're so scared when they see like a
zucchini or a cucumber.
I'm realizing so much about my cat right now. Okay.
Did you do the evil cucumber trick?
No, because if I did, I think she would just shoot up through the roof. I don't think I'd ever see her again.
So you can go to the Bell Witch place. I have the link to their website in my notes and my sources. So you can do a tour of the house. You can do a tour of the cave. You can do a combo deal where you do a tour of the house and the cave. If you go in October, they have a special thing for Halloween, and that's a little bit more expensive. There's also a river on the property that for $20 per person, you can go tubing down the river. And so
that's just a tourist attraction. I think, and this is just me, I love caves. I would like to go to the cave more than going to the house to see the kettle and the rock.
Right. Yeah. No. But the house would be interesting to see because it's like it's set up the way the house was originally set up. And I just like seeing historic houses, like the one room house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Cool day trip, guys.
But yeah, so that would be a fun little day trip if you wanted to go out there. So, Robin, we are approximately unedited 54 minutes in, which was a little bit longer than I was expecting it to be, but that's unedited. I'm going to give you a little bit more history about witches in general, and then you and I are going to do a fun quiz to see if we're a witch.
Yay!
So what is a witch? If you Google the definition, you'll see, quote, a woman thought to have magic powers, especially evil ones, popularly depicted as wearing a black cloak and a pointed hat and flying on a broomstick.
Okay.
Early witches were people who practice witchcraft.
As opposed to the current witches who don't?
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay.
But they used spells and called upon spirits. They were thought to be pagans doing the devil's work, but others who were a little bit more favorable saw them as wise women who were natural healers. One of the earliest mentions of witches was in the Bible when King Saul sought the aid of the Witch of Endor to summon a dead prophet's spirit to help him defeat the Philistine army. Apparently it went poorly for him. All his sons died, and so he died by suicide after.
You're saying this in a very Valley Girl accent.
Thank you. Witches, or other people perceived by Christians as witches, were hated. The Bible preaches against divination, chanting, contacting the dead, and says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," which many took as permission to kill witches.
Okay.
In the mid-1400s in Europe, people were tortured until they confessed to being a witch, and then they were executed. Single women, widows, and other women in the margins of society were especially targeted. Between 1500 and 1660, up to 80,000 people suspected to be witches were executed in Europe. 80% of them were women that they thought were in cahoots with the devil. So the witch hunt then traveled to Salem, Massachusetts in 1692, and I'll only go over very briefly, but basically it's a similar story where everybody's like tortured until they confess that they're a witch. But I feel like we're pretty familiar with it, and also Robin may be doing a Patreon episode about it.
So that's me? Did I call dibs on that?
You did call dibs on that.
Okay, cool. Dibs.
Yeah. So become a Patreon subscriber to learn more about the Salem witch trials. Around 150 people were accused of witchcraft and 18 were executed, 6 of them being men. Now, historically, people believed that witches were pagans. However, there is a significant group of people that viewed anyone who was not Christian as a pagan, including Jewish people. So they believed that since they were not Christian, they were Jewish, they were a pagan. And so they must be a witch.
Wow.
And Christian depictions of witches were often caricatures of how they saw a Jewish woman.
Oh,
So I'm leading up to that, but basically what we see, the stereotypical witch, like think of the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz, that's actually a anti-Semitic caricature.
Yeah, you've mentioned that to me before.
Yeah. So after 1215, the year 1215, Jewish people were required to wear a cone-shaped hat called the Judenhaupt, which made them visible targets.
Oh.
Kind of like the Star of David that they were forced to wear during World War II. And some say this is actually where dunce caps came from as well.
What's a dunce cap?
So, have you ever seen like a cartoon about where a child has to sit in the corner wearing the white pointed hat that says dunce, and it's because they were an idiot?
Oh, no, but I've heard of them actually now that you describe it.
Okay. But they say that dunce caps came from this as well. But in Hungary, they passed a law in 1431 requiring those who were accused of sorcery to wear the peaked Jew caps as well. So that became the pointed hat that we associate with witches. So, not starting off strong.
Not starting off strong.
Any non-Christian gathering or meetings of any kind was seen as anti-Christian, satanic, and heretical, and probably had an orgy or two. So the weekly meeting of the Jewish Sabbath, which was a ritualistic practice, was associated with devil worship, and it's where we get the idea of a nighttime gathering of witches around a campfire.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is all like just people's Christian anti-Semitic interpretation of what's going on, like,
yes,
completely. Okay.
Yeah. The stereotypical image of the witch that we have today is also based on anti-Semitic views of Jewish women. So I don't know if you know this, but Jewish people are stereotypically known to have olive-toned skin, big noses, a pointed hat, well, the pointed hat I already discussed, and having blemished skin from being so close to the devil.
And this is like caricatures that are against them.
Yes. Yeah. So they believe that anybody who's not Christian, including Jewish people, if they spent too much time with the devil, they would start changing into the devil physically. So the green skin, olive-toned skin, big nose, the large crooked nose, a pointed hat, the pointed hat, and warts on her nose. That's the devil affecting their what they look like. Yeah. So obviously a little girl who's 8 years old walking around with green face paint doesn't know
like the history behind all of this.
Yeah. Most people don't know about it. So I wouldn't say like everybody who's wearing green face paint with a pointed hat is being anti-Semitic. No, but it's just like, has origins.
It's like our modern pop culture, not pop culture, our modern like basic conception of what a witch is supposed to look like seems to just be from this anti-Semitic propaganda mill.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
But modern witches are typically people who practice Wicca, which is a religion recognized in the United States and Canada, and probably other places.
But, and
things. Nouns. They practice Wicca, and Wicca is a very peaceful religion. So their mantra is to harm none, and they seek balance between nature and humanity. Modern witchcraft is usually based on a novel called The Book of Shadows, and is more similar to praying with rituals than you would see in like Harry Potter. So modern witchcraft is also known for using natural herbal remedies for illnesses and sores, as well as ritual and chants to persuade a higher power to help.
Okay.
The Wiccan faith is a very open religion where one follows the rules that they wish to follow. So there's no correct way to be a Wiccan as long as you're using your witchcraft for good. So like anybody can be a Wiccan. Wiccan? Yeah. So Robin.
Yeah.
Do you think you're a witch?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to keep count on your fingers, and I'm going to keep count for myself on my fingers as well.
And this is the same quiz that our friends at the Internet Witches did in their first episode, right?
Yes.
So they like do a lot on what modern witches is because they both consider themselves to be modern witches. So we are, for fun, seeing if we are.
Yes.
And where does this quiz come from?
So it's tiered. So I found it. It's called an Are You a Witch test. And I found it in a Washington Post article by Ron Charles. The article was called 10 Signs That She's a Witch.
Okay.
However, there's actually 11 items. He just counted 6 twice.
All right. So there's 10, 11 signs that you're a witch.
Yes.
All right, I've got...
And then...
Okay.
Sorry. And then he pulled the information from the Penguin Book of Witches, which is a collection of older witch things edited by Catherine Howe.
So this is how it's tiered. All right. How many points am I hoping for? What is the total I can get?
Total you can get is 11. However, his scorecard goes off of 10 because he made a mistake.
So how many do I need in order to be a witch?
I will tell you at the end.
Because I don't want it to influence my answers. Yeah. Okay. Are you holding up your fingers too?
Yes, I'm going to hold them. This is put a finger down challenge. Okay, so put a finger down. Are you a woman? Do you have a pet? Do you have a wart or like a mole or something like that? Are you irritating? Yes.
Wait, what?
For myself.
No. Is that a question?
Yes. Are you irritating?
Is this sexist?
Well, it was pulled from not ancient texts, but it was pulled from texts of witch hunting.
My jaw dropped. Okay.
Is she weird around your kids? Are you weird around kids? And I would say yes for me.
Sometimes I don't know how to interact with them.
Is she middle-aged? No longer young enough to be beautiful, not old enough to be venerable.
No, I'm not middle-aged. We're not middle-aged.
We're not. I think if this was when it was originally written, yes, we would be considered middle-aged.
No, we're not middle-aged.
Robin.
Zoe.
We would be considered unmarriageable at this point.
We would not be considered unmarried. It wasn't so quite as... Okay.
Listen. But I'm leaving the finger up. I'm leaving my finger up. So, is she pissed is the next question.
Okay, wait, what?
About the general state of the world? Yes.
I'm keeping mine up.
Okay. Has she stopped going to church? Or have you stopped going to church?
I go to church sometimes. I'm keeping mine up.
I'm putting mine down.
All right.
Have you threatened someone and then it come true?
No.
I don't think so.
But I did think for a second.
So this is you're supposed to be thinking of somebody else, so that's why I kind of changed tense. But this next one is, have you seen her spirit in your house at night? And I don't think I've ever had somebody come up to me and be like, I saw your spirit at my house last night.
Wait, so somebody else is seeing us in their house?
Yes.
Well, okay.
I mean, I have seen you in my house at night.
Yeah.
But you were corporally here.
So, okay, but here's my addendum to that question, because I think that could be very interesting. People have seen me in their dreams.
Because you're the dream girl, Robin.
I think that counts. I'm gonna make that count. So people see me in their dreams.
People see me in their dreams too. So I'm gonna put, yeah. Has she confessed to being a witch?
No.
I have not confessed to being a witch either.
Okay.
So, Robin, you have 6 fingers down.
I have 6 fingers down.
I have 8 fingers down.
Okay.
So if you scored 0 to 2, you're probably safe for now.
Wait, how many fingers down? Okay, yeah. Okay.
If you scored 3 to 5, lock up your children and your cows.
Because you're the witch. So lock them up away from you?
Well, so this is from the point of view of you're trying to determine if somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the village people have to lock up their children and their cows to hide them from you.
Goodness, I have 6. What do they need to do with 6?
6 to 8. Prepare the ducking stool.
What's the ducking stool?
Do you remember when I talked about Grace Sherwood?
Yeah.
And it's the whole, like, if she drowns, she's a witch. If she floats, she's a witch. If she drowns, she's not.
Yeah.
That's called ducking.
No. If she drowns, she's not a witch. If she floats, she is a witch.
That's what I said, but I just flipped it. I said if she floats, she's a witch. If she drowns, she's not.
I think you said the opposite. Okay.
The first time I said the opposite, but I corrected myself.
Oh, okay. I was still trying to process.
So, prepare the ducking stool, as in they need to get tested.
Zoe, I'm naturally buoyant. I'm going to fail that.
And then
cannot sink.
If you put down 9 to 10, it says get a rope.
Oh, God.
As in hang her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is violent.
It is violent.
So I guess you and I need to get out of town, huh?
Yeah. I think they need to duck us, but I don't want that to happen.
All right.
So I'm going to run away and end this episode.
Thelma, Louise, let's go.
Yes, you did mention that movie?
Two women ride off on a convertible and they're on the run from the law.
Bonnie and Clyde style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a... Okay.
Ending the episode now.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, I was serious when I said ending
the episode.
That's it. We're done.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing this with us.
You're welcome. And happy 1 year, Robin.
Happy 1 year. All right, guys, if you liked this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe, and tell a friendo, and also subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/hauntedhospitality. For $3 a month, you get a new episode.
Yes, and it comes out on the 13th because we're spooky. Mm-hmm. If you want to see my sources, you can go to hauntedhospitality.wordpress.com. And if you have your own spooky story, whether that be true crime or supernatural, you can go to and email us at hauntedhospitalitypodcast@gmail.com. You can also slide into our DMs, which I demand all of you to do because it is our 1 year anniversary.
That is true. That is true. You can slide to our DMs at Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Haunted Hospitality. And you can also slide into our DMs at Twitter at Haunted Hosts. We hope to see you there.
Stay spooky. Now, how do I stop recording?